Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Na Vallabha Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa Purudikacharya Astoto to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Purudikacharya Astoto to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 24th day of December 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are reading from the 8th chapter, Attaining the Supreme, text 23, page 366. Ready? Yatra kale tvanavrittim Yatra kale tvanavrittim Avrittim chaiva yoginaha Payata yanti tam kalam Pakshyami bharatarshaba Yatra kale tvanavrittim Avrittim chaiva yoginaha Prayata yanti tam kalam Pakshyami bharatarshaba. Okay, since it's only us, I doubt if there's anyone on the internet. If there is, excuse me. But why don't we have just a little 1 minute lesson here? Because this TV is giving us some problem. I'm talking about in the first line there. Yatra kale, then you get to the TV. What do you do with that TV? It's a V, it's not a U. It was a U that became a V because the next word begins with a vowel. That's the rule. If you look in the word by word meanings, yatra, you see that? And the next word is to, you see that? To and? Yeah, to and. So that to became a TV. Now, the way it's pronounced is yatra kale tvanavritim. You see that? You merge it into the next word. Tvana, You see, the one is tvanavrittim. Vrittim, yeah, tvanavrittim. The same, we get a similar thing. I don't know if I can give you an example now. When you have an I at the end of a word, and the next word begins with a vowel, that I becomes a Y. And you have the word, like oftentimes you have the word uppy. Let's see if I can find one for you here. It's not as so common, but they do appear. But when we, here we go. Look on text 21. Look in text 21 on page 364. And you see where it says iti? But that's a Y there. It's not iti anymore. It was iti. If you look in the word by word meanings, you see iti, thus. Okay. So the Y, the I became a Y because the next word begins with a vowel. Uktas. So it sounds avyakto chada ityuktas. It-yuktas. The Y goes with the next word. Yes, yeah. You got it? It-yuktas. Okay, so for future, they kind of, they merge. Yeah, the Y goes with the next. And in this case, the V goes with the next, in the word to. I'm sorry? I thought you were just going really fast all the time. I didn't understand. No, that's part of the rules. It's called sandhi. Sandhi means where two words meet. All right, now let's try it. To text 23. I'll go slow. Yatta kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yantitam kalam vakshyami bharatarshaba. Or does anyone want to try chanting? Go ahead. Yatta kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yantitam kalam Bharatarshaba. Vakshami Bharatarshaba. Go ahead, Chris. Give it a shot. It's just us. Kale. Kale. The E is pronounced A. Yeah. Try to start again. Yatra kale tvanavrittim. Avrittim. Now the C sounds like CH. Chaiva. Chaiva. Yeah, it's just like a CH. Perfect. Avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yantitam kalam vakshami bharatarshaba. Not bad, not bad. Improved. All right, I'll just read the synonyms, word by word, so you can read along silently. Yatra, at which, kale, time, to, and, anavrittim, no return. Avrittim, return. Cha, also, eva, certainly, yoginaha, different kinds of mystics. Priyata, having departed, yanti, attain, tam, that, kalam, time, bhakshyami, I shall describe, bharata rishabha, or best of the Bharatas. Okay, Bharatas are descendants of King Bharat, very exalted king. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. Purport. The unalloyed devotees of the Supreme Lord, who are totally surrendered souls, do not care when they leave their bodies or by what method. They leave everything in Krishna's hands and so easily and happily return to Godhead. But those who are not unalloyed devotees and who depend instead on such methods of spiritual realization as karma yoga, jnana yoga, and hatha yoga, must leave the body at a suitable time in order to be sure of whether or not they will return to the world of birth and death. If the yogi is perfect, he can select the time and situation for leaving this material world. But if he is not so expert, his success depends on his accidentally passing away at a certain suitable time. The suitable times at which one passes away and does not come back are explained by the Lord in the next verse. According to Acharya Baladev Vidyabhushan, The Sanskrit word kala used herein refers to the presiding deity of time. All right, let's go on. 24. Agnir Jyotirahak Shukla Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Vidojanaha. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain the Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god, in the light at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. Purport. When fire, light, day, and the fortnight of the moon are mentioned, it is to be understood that over all of them there are various presiding deities who make arrangements for the passage of the soul. At the time of death, the mind carries one on the path to a new life. If one leaves the body at the time designated above, either accidentally or by arrangement, it is possible for him to attain the impersonal Brahmajyoti. Mystics who are advanced in yoga practice can arrange the time and place to leave the body. Others have no control. If by accident they leave at an auspicious moment, then they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. But otherwise, there is every possibility that they will have to return. However, for the pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves the body at an auspicious or inauspicious moment, by accident or arrangement. So this is more or less the theme and the purpose of this section. Krishna is giving all these technical times when you can leave, don't leave, and this and that. But just as it's so hard for us to practice all these mantras and sacrifices and homas and things, and it's not necessary for us because we've been given this blessing of bhakti, which is beyond all of that. That's what Prabhupada is saying, is that if you're truly Krishna conscious and you're hanging on to Krishna's lotus feet, by constant remembrance, it doesn't matter where or when you leave. You're ready to go at any time. And that's the nature of this present world, is that we really don't know. Things are so unregulated, it can be a disaster at any moment. So we'll read through and we'll come to the key verse, which I think is 27 actually. Okay. Dumoratris tata Krishna Shanmasa Dakshinahinam Tatra Chandrama Sanjyotir Yogi Prapya Nivartate. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. Purport. In the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Muni mentions that those who are expert in fruitive activities and sacrificial methods on earth attain to the moon at death. These elevated souls live on the moon for about 10,000 years by demigod calculations and enjoy life by drinking soma ras. They eventually return to earth. This means that on the moon there are higher classes of living beings, though they may not be perceived by the gross senses. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshun Midatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So there's some mysteries of the universe being revealed here, and it's all very interesting. But we should always remember that the central purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is to explain to us why we should surrender to Krishna. And if we do that, everything else is taken care of. There's one verse in the Bhagavatam describes how we all come into this world and we're debtors just to come in. It says, Devarshi Bhuta Aptanrinam Pratinam Nakinkaro Nayam Rini Charajan Sarvatmanatak Sharanam Shadanyam Gato Mukundam Paririchikartam. That as soon as we're born, with Deva Rishis, we owe so much to the demigods, the god of the sun, the god of the moon, the god of the rain, providing all the necessities, the air god. Right? We don't realize we're dependent on all of this arrangement for just to live another day or another minute. So, and other living beings as children we're taken care of by the parents and the teachers, and then so many people, and who are helping us to live one day or another. So we're indebted. We're indebted to them. But it says, Sarvatmananyak Sharanam Sharanyam. If one takes shelter of Krishna, who's the Supreme Soul, then all the debts are relieved. It's like consolidate. You have a lot of credit cards and they're all maxed out, and you're in debt. So there's a means. I've never had that experience, but you can consolidate them so you just have to make one payment a month or something. You're able to do that. So if we become devotees of Krishna, we don't owe anyone anything. The debts are all liquidated. So similarly, this when to leave, when not to leave, and making all those arrangements. This is a calculation by those who are maybe advanced yogis, but there's still some material tinge there, and so they have to be sure to leave at the right time or not. But you don't have to worry. This is another thing we don't have to worry about. That's what the end of this is all going to be. So let's read on. Text 76. Shukla Krishna Gati Yete Jagatak Shasvate Mate Ekaya Yatyanavrittim. Remember? That's why we go to the next. Yatyanavrittim. Ekaya Yatyanavrittim Anyaya Vartate Punaha. Punaha. According to Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back. But when one passes in darkness, he returns. Purport. The same description of departure and return is quoted by Acharya Baladev Vidyabhushan from the Chandogya Upanishad 5.10.3-5. Those who are fruit of laborers and philosophical speculators from time immemorial are constantly going and coming. Actually, they do not attain ultimate salvation, for they do not surrender to Krishna. And now here is a key verse in the last verse of the chapter, brings us back home to the glories of devotional service, bhakti yoga. Naite suti partha janan yogi muhyati kashtana muhyati kashtana. That's S with a little mark over it. That's pronounced like SH. Kashtana. And the S with a dot under it, pronounced the same way, more or less. We're coming up on one. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjana. Although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjun, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. Never bewildered means they're not concerned about him. Purport. Krishna is here advising Arjun that he should not be disturbed by the different paths the soul can take when leaving the material world. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. He should know that concern over either of these two paths is troublesome. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always dovetailed in his service. And this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. The word yoga yukta is especially significant in this verse. One who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all his activities. Sri Rupa Goswami advises, Anasakta sibhishayan yatarham upayunjataha. One should be unattached in material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. By this system, which is called Yukta Vairagya, one attains perfection. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by these descriptions because he knows that his passage to the Supreme Abode is guaranteed by devotional service. So, the simple point is that by developing Krishna consciousness, one should come to the point eventually, either in this life or a future life, of constantly remembering Krishna. Because that's our natural function, is that if our consciousness is always on Krishna, our activities will always be dovetailed with Krishna's desires. The idea is to is to not undertake anything on the basis of our own false sense of self, which is bound up to this body. We're not the body. The body is going to pass away, but we're going to go on. And so our real identity is as a servant of Krishna. As is Lord Chaitanya's basic teaching. Jivera swarupoi krishnera nityadas. A swarup means your actual form that never changes. That's the underlying you. But this body is constantly changing, so that can't be it. So here he says the swarup of every jiva, not even just human jiva, but every single soul is to be a servant of Krishna. But in this material world, we've completely forgotten that. And so we're identifying with our external self. So to come to the perfection of Krishna consciousness means to develop your consciousness to the point in which you're never forgetting Krishna. And therefore, no matter what happens, at any time, you're ready to go back to Godhead. You've already developed your next body. You're aware of it. And so you can be very peaceful in any circumstance. Can you imagine? Even the most disturbing things, if it was an earthquake now, you can still keep your head. You know? Because you're fixed on Krishna. Fixed on Krishna. So that comes up in this next verse here. Vedeshu yaggeshu tapaksu chaiva daneshu yat punya palam pradishtam palam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi padam stanam upaiti chadyam upaiti chadyam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end he reaches the supreme eternal abode. Purport. This verse is the summation of the 7th and 8th chapters, which particularly deal with Krishna consciousness and devotional service. One has to study the Vedas under the guidance of the spiritual master and undergo many austerities and penances while living under his care. A brahmachari has to live in the home of the spiritual master just like a servant, and he must beg alms from door to door and bring them to the spiritual master. He takes food only under the master's order, and if the master neglects to call the student for food that day, the student fasts. These are some of the Vedic principles for observing brahmacharya. After the student studies the Vedas under the master for some time, at least from age 5 to 20, he becomes a man of perfect character. Study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. After this training, the brahmachari is allowed to enter into household life and marry. Then he is a householder. When he is a householder, he has to perform many sacrifices so that he may achieve further enlightenment. He must also give charity according to the country, time, and candidate, discriminating among charity in goodness, in passion, and in ignorance, as described in the Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter. Then, after retiring from household life, upon accepting the order of vanaprastha, he undergoes severe penances, living in forests, dressing with tree bark, not shaving, etc. By carrying out the orders of brahmacharya, household or life, vanaprastha, and finally sannyas, one becomes elevated to the perfectional stage of life. Some are then elevated to the heavenly kingdoms, and when they become even more advanced, they are liberated in the spiritual sky, either in the impersonal Brahmajyoti, or in the Vaikuntha planets, or Krishna Loka. This is the path outlined by Vedic literatures. The beauty of Krishna consciousness, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all the rituals of the different orders of life. The words idam viditva indicate that one should understand the instructions given by Sri Krishna in this chapter and the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. One should try to understand these chapters not by scholarship or mental speculation, but by hearing them in association with devotees. Chapters 7 through 12 are the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. The first 6 and the last 6 chapters are like coverings for the middle 6 chapters, which are especially protected by the Lord. If one is fortunate enough to understand the Bhagavad Gita, especially these middle 6 chapters, in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifices, charities, speculations, etc. For one can achieve all the results of these activities simply by Krishna consciousness. One who has a little faith in the Bhagavad Gita should learn the Bhagavad Gita from a devotee, because in the beginning of the 4th chapter, it is stated clearly that the Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees. No one else can perfectly understand the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita, or the purport of the Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore learn the Bhagavad Gita from a devotee of Krishna, not from mental speculators. This is a sign of faith. When one searches for a devotee and fortunately gets the devotee's association, one actually begins to study and understand the Bhagavad Gita. By advancement in the association of the devotee, one is placed in devotional service. And this service dispels all one's misgivings about Krishna or God and Krishna's activities, form, pastimes, name, and other features. After these misgivings have been perfectly cleared away, one becomes fixed in one's study. Then one relishes the study of the Bhagavad Gita and attains the state of feeling always Krishna conscious. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. This highest perfectional stage of life enables the devotee to be transferred to Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, Goloka Vrindavan, where the devotee becomes eternally happy. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of attaining the Supreme. So that's a really nice high note to end the chapter on. Basically he's saying that just be a yogi, a bhakti yogi, and you'll get all the benefits of all of these things. Vedeshu, Yagyeshu, Tapakshu. Studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, performing penances, giving charity, all of the pious fruits of that thing will be available to one who simply practices Krishna consciousness. So as often is the case, well, that's all we need to do. You know, it's very encouraging. And in fact, the next chapter, which is a key chapter, chapter 9, it's all about devotional service. And he really has some discouraging words for those who want to worship the demigods. You know, there's a section of this chapter, just as there was one in chapter 7, in which he says, just to get involved in all of this, you know, trying to go to the heavenly planets and performing sacrifices and praying the priests, it's not worth it. Because even if you can go, you still have to come back down, you know, to this world of birth and death, to start over again, you know. So this is one of the principles Srila Prabhupada taught us, because he himself embodied it. And that is, you keep your eye on the prize, we used to say. You know, always understand, we want to try to attain a state that's not bound by time. That is, that we're actually in an eternal state of ananda or bliss. And that's only available in Krishna consciousness. So we should become serious about it. I'm sorry? We're going to start the next chapter if we have time. Did we bring the other mic? We brought the other mic. Did you have a question? Did you have a question? Hold on a second. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah. Second. You never know. We might have a big audience out there.
Not really a question, more like something that was reinforcing what we just went over about, you know, purport saying when you're brahmachari and then you move on to householder life.
Oh, okay.
And then, you know, the different stages, right? They were saying that when we went to LA, that's how the LA temple is supposed to be a model for all the United States to follow. And at first people were living in the ashram, and then after, you know, they got married, and so Prabhupada didn't want them to go too far, but he wanted us to be relatively close, so that's what the community started. And over there they have like the buildings for brahmacharis.
I lived there for 3 years.
Yeah, so it's just interesting that it's here in the book.
Yes, yeah, for sure. I mean, there are all these different stages, and the Grihastha ashram is available, but there are rules and regulations. That's the whole idea, is to, you know, you have to accept the rules and regulations if you really want to progress in devotional service. Just like if you want to do anything, you want to learn to play an instrument. You know, I mean, we got our own ideas, but the teacher has come down, you know, and knows the best way that you can actually advance. So similarly, we have all these wonderful teachers. Prabhupada referred to, if you remember, in two purports. Here, give it to Darshan, I'm sure he has some question. To Baladev Vidyabhushan. Yeah, he's going to turn it on. Baladev Vidyabhushan, who was the main commentator who Prabhupada relied on here. Well, all these quotes and things that we find in the purports, he's quoting from Baladev Vidyabhushan. Vidyabhushan means he has the ornament of knowledge. In other words, he's given that designation because he's so learned. And he wrote a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which is a very advanced position even to try to write, because the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the followers of Lord Chaitanya, didn't have a commentary. But generally, the different sampradayas, the different lines, there's 4 lines, we're one of them. They all had commentaries written by their one of their great learned acharyas. So at a certain point in history, a few hundred years after Lord Chaitanya left, it was seen that, well, we should have our own commentary. Because Lord Chaitanya said the Bhagavatam is the perfect commentary. What do we need another one for? So because the Bhagavatam was written by Vyasadeva after he wrote the Vedanta Sutra. Anyway, it's a long story, but the bottom line is that Prabhupada made so many adjustments when he came to the West, but he kept the essence of the whole process. The chanting of the holy names, the following the principles, studying the Shastra, and we can progress mightily if we just follow the program. And you were going to say?
Yeah, I had a question. Brahmacharya, it said that 5 to 20 and all that. Does that mean after 15 years the guys who are staying here can get married? Or is it only when they're young?
Prabhupada, when he writes in his purports, he often speaks about the traditional India.
Okay.
For thousands of years it was observed, and during Lord Chaitanya's time it was also happening, and he also took a spiritual master. But outside of India, if it's going to be a worldwide movement, that progression is available. But it's not a question of any time limit that when you can get married. It's a question of brahmacharya life is very favorable for devotional service because you don't have the distraction. Your attachments, are immediately being directed to Krishna, and the main attachment you have is the sex desire. So that's being sublimated more quickly in brahmacharya life. So most of the brahmacharis who have lived in this movement, they've gotten married, and many of them have gotten married within the movement, because the idea is that sometimes they don't want to be brahmacharis, they just leave the movement. That's not good. Prabhupada didn't want that. So that's why he had this grihastha ashram. Grihastha means you have a house, griha, but it's an ashram. Means that you still accept the goal of your life is Krishna consciousness. You accept the rules given by the Shastra and by the Guru and the sadhus, and it's restricted, but it's fine. There were so many children born into the movement. Now, we weren't able to follow Prabhupada's rules for the schools and so many things, and there was, there's still gurukuls, especially in India.
Gurukuls, yeah.
Gurukulas. Yeah,
Gurukulas.
Yeah, where
I was
children
close.
stay.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's, but it's not, the structure is different in different parts of the world. But the basic principle, if you want to live in the temple, and there's all these rules and regulations, and you make a commitment. But how long you can do that, it depends on your determination.
So you could stay a brahmacharya and never marry and stay this here your entire life?
That's me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's that. All right.
46 years, not married, not a sannyasi.
We know which planet you're going to. You breathe and live that thing. You got verses coming out your mind.
The thing is, because of my service, it's like a unique service, editing. We had other editors and proofreaders, but I'm the one who stayed. I mean, there's only a few of us who stayed the whole time as an editor. But that it's facilitates my service. Because as soon as you take sannyas, you got to travel. You got to move around, And traveling is not the best thing to, for having a computer and all of the connections and the work I do, I have to be. So it facilitates.
It'd be difficult for you to do the editing until
and it's not just editing I do. I also do, I do a lot of work with touching up layout and all kinds of stuff. In other words, I need a big screen. I can't just have a laptop. I need to have a big screen where I can look at the books. And it's a whole thing. Oh. And if you come to my room, I have shelves with all the books. I wouldn't carry that with me. So it's facilitated, and at this point, nobody's complaining so much. They used to ask me, when are you taking sannyas? When are you taking sannyas? But now that I've hit 72, it says, well, maybe you won't take sannyas. So, take sannyas means that that's the next step of really. It's the whole thing. You take certain new vows. You are especially travel all the time, and it's very strict. Even much more strict. Not talking to women, not be involved at all with ladies and things like that. You go from city to city. Often you take disciples. That's a big thing also. The Jubilee sannyasis will have disciples, and I don't have any disciples. But I'm satisfied with my service. These books that we read here, and even this Bhagavad Gita. Now, I didn't edit the Bhagavad Gita, but I had a lot to do with finding and fixing little mistakes in the Bhagavad Gita. That's why you notice that difference between
The square miles.
Yeah,
I remember that, yeah.
I mean, that was one of the things we discussed. Well, this isn't accurate. It doesn't make any sense, so we took it out. There's a whole bunch of things, if you're interested, that we fixed up on this Bhagavad Gita. Now it's kind of the way it's going to be. But that's my service, sitting there and saying, wait a minute. Most devotees just read, and they accept, well, this is Prabhupada. When I read, I say, is this really right? Is it, what I mean? I say, is this the way it's supposed to be? So in one sense, it's a bit of a curse, but that's the way I read the books, scrutinizing them. All right, we have time to start this next chapter, and I'd like to do that because this is really an important chapter. This is the most confidential knowledge. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Bhagavan. Bhagavan. Look at it. Okay. Idam tute guhyatamam pravakshyam hyanasuyabe jnanam vijnana sahitam yagyatva mokshase shubhat shubhat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjun, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. Purport. As a devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. This hearing process is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Quote, the messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and these potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed amongst devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge. The devotees are constantly engaged in the Supreme Lord's service. The Lord understands the mentality and sincerity of a particular living entity who is engaged in Krishna consciousness, and gives him the intelligence to understand the science of Krishna in the association of devotees. Discussion of Krishna is very potent, and if a fortunate person has such association and tries to assimilate the knowledge, then he will surely make advancement towards spiritual realization. Lord Krishna, in order to encourage Arjuna to higher and higher elevation in his potent service, describes in this 9th chapter matters more confidential than any he has already disclosed. The very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, the 1st chapter, is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book. And in the 2nd and 3rd chapters, the spiritual knowledge is described. The spiritual knowledge described is confidential. Topics discussed in the 7th and 8th chapters are specifically related to devotional service, and because they bring enlightenment in Krishna consciousness, they are called more confidential. But the matters which are described in the 9th chapter deal with unalloyed pure devotion. Therefore, this is called the most confidential. One who is situated in the most confidential knowledge of Krishna is naturally transcendental. He therefore has no material pangs, although he is in the material world. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is said that although one who has a sincere desire to render loving service to the Supreme Lord is situated in the conditional state of material existence, he is to be considered liberated. Similarly, we shall find in the Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, that anyone who is engaged in that way is a liberated person. Now, this first verse has specific significance. The words idam, jnanam, this knowledge, refer to pure devotional service, which consists of 9 different activities: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. By the practice of these 9 elements of devotional service, one is elevated to spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. When one's heart is thus cleared of material contamination, one can understand this science of Krishna. Simply to understand that a living entity is not material is not sufficient. That may be the beginning of spiritual realization, but one should recognize the difference between activities of the body and the spiritual activities of one who understands that he is not the body. In the 7th chapter, we have already discussed the opulent potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his different energies, the inferior and superior natures, and all this material manifestation. Now in chapter 9, the glories of the Lord will be delineated. We're on page 374. The Sanskrit word anasuyave in this verse is also very significant. Generally, the commentators, even if they are highly scholarly, are all envious of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the most erudite scholars write on the Bhagavad Gita very inaccurately. Because they are envious of Krishna, their commentaries are useless. The commentaries given by devotees of the Lord are bona fide. No one can explain the Bhagavad Gita or give perfect knowledge of Krishna if he is envious. One who criticizes the character of Krishna without knowing him is a fool. So such commentaries should be very carefully avoided. For one who understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pure and transcendental personality, these chapters will be very beneficial. So, idam today guyatamam. Now, confidential. What is that word, confidential? Guyatamam means very secret, kind of not available just by your own effort. Something that has to be revealed. And that's what Krishna is revealing here. The secret is, is kind of out. The secret comes at the end of the chapter, where Krishna says, "Manmana bhavamad bhakto majajim nam namaskaru mame vaishasti yuktraivam matmana matparayana." He says, just think of me, manmana bhavamad bhakto, become my devotee. Majajim nam namaskaru, sacrifice everything for me, worship me, and offer your obeisance to me. In this way, you will certainly come to me, because you'll be thoroughly linked to me. Now he repeats the verse at the end of the 18th chapter, when he gives his final instruction. He said, now I'll again tell you what the most confident is. And it's the same exact verse, with a little twist, because it's more intimate. It says, I promise you this because you're my very dear friend. He's speaking to Arjuna, but he's also speaking to us. And then he says, Sarva dharma parityajya, you give up all dharma. If you do this one thing, you've already achieved the result of all dharma. And the one thing is to surrender unto me. I'll protect you from any sin-free actions. Don't fear, don't worry. He literally says, Mashucha, don't worry. So in other words, dharma is meant to bring you to the point of surrender to Krishna. Full surrender, every moment, every second. That's what is explained in the Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, 1st canto. So, dharma is essential for human life. But it's meant to bring you to a certain point where then you can give up dharma. You don't need dharma anymore because you're floating along in this ocean of love. Just like the gopis and the cowherd boys in Goloka Vrindavan. They don't worry about dharma. Everything is predicated on love of Krishna. They know exactly what to do because they're doing everything in order to express their love for Krishna. Perfect. There's no need for anything else. That's the end. So that's what we should aspire for. That is our natural position. And the Bhagavad Gita eventually brings it to that. So, but this 9th chapter is going to, again, Krishna is going to explain his actual position, and he's going to differentiate between those who are under the control of the internal and under the control of the external energy. And at the end he's going to describe what the essence of the whole most confidential knowledge is, and that brings it back to Krishna consciousness. Just surrender to Krishna and think of him always and you'll be fine. So, but it's nice to know, here we're getting, the most secret knowledge, the essence of all the Vedic studies. You don't have to study all the Vedas. That's like the message of Bhagavatam. Narada comes down and he tells Vyasadeva, you wasted your time. No wonder why you're dissatisfied, because you didn't thoroughly just, glorify Krishna. Now, the interesting thing, part of what Vyasadeva wrote was the Mahabharata, which contains the Bhagavad Gita. So, not everything he wrote was useless, obviously. We're reading the Bhagavad Gita here. But the Bhagavad Gita is meant to bring us to the point of the Bhagavatam, bring us to the point of full surrender. So it's all culminates in that. But this idea is very confidential. And the next verse, which we won't read tonight, I don't think we have time to go through it. It's a long purport. Prabhupada wrote this purport as a separate essay, the 1 to 2, and a very well-known verse about the being the king of knowledge. Raja Vidya, and again Guhyatama, most confidential, secret of all secrets. So it's amazing because it's a secret, but it's an open secret. We've distributed literally millions of these books, and over the years, and the secret is out. But unless you're blessed, you won't see it as a secret that's pertinent to you. But actually, it's the most confidential knowledge for every living being to have. But only human beings can have it, and only those rare human beings who are receptive to the message can really take it. Otherwise, it doesn't seem to pertain to you. This is Hinduism, that's the harekrishnas, I got stuff to do. The mind is that's why the word, going back to the end of chapter 8, you remember when he's talking about the times to leave, the word kept coming up, avritam and anavritam. Avritam means no return, but the word avritam means to be covered. Avritam means to be covered. So that means that each time you take birth again, you're covered. Your original knowledge is covered by some kind of body, some kind of brain. It could be a non-human body. You're really covered. You're subhuman. But even human beings, they're covered by illusion, by ignorance. And so even though they meet a devotee and they get offered a book, it doesn't penetrate their covering. It's too strong of the modes of nature. I know it's all suspicious to meet a devotee anyway, but to really get a book and to read it with interest and to pursue the knowledge, it's rare. So we should take advantage of it. We're interested, pursue that interest and that process, so Krishna will reveal more and more within the heart. That's the whole idea. It's not just a static thing. Krishna from within the heart, he's giving us so much instruction. That's the message that's right here in the Bhagavad Gita. 15th chapter. What does Krishna say? Sarvasya chaham mridisan nivishto mattak smriti jnanam apohanangsha. I am in the heart of everybody as the super soul. And for me come knowledge and remembrance and also forgetfulness. If you want to forget Krishna, then he'll give you the opportunity to forget him lifetime after lifetime. But if you want to remember him, he'll give you the opportunity to cultivate that remembrance. And that's what this movement is. I know you have a question. Do you? You're holding on to that mic at the meeting.
Well, I was going to give it to anybody else that had a question. Anybody else have a question?
She never has a question.
No, okay. Well, I just hope Krishna has mountain bikes on that planet, because I really want to race him for all eternity. I know that sounds weird, but that's all I really like to do.
There may be something like that. I mean, they do a lot of racing and running around in the forest, so you can get that feeling. I don't know if the mountain bike sounds a little artificial. But anyway, it's... I'm not sure that there's a relationship there. You think so? Between how long the battle lasted and how many chapters there are? Maybe 18 is some kind of auspicious number. Did you have anything like that?
One of the things I was going to say, though, so what you're saying is the Bhagavad Gita itself, as it is all that's really necessary. You don't have to read the Bhagavatam. If you read this and you follow what it says in it, and you just put Krishna first.
If you really read this, and you follow it, you're going to want to read the Bhagavatam. Because you want as much information about Krishna as you can get.
Oh, okay, that's what I didn't understand. Okay, yeah. I just want to be clear about
this
that.
Is actually a preliminary study of the Bhagavatam. It is said that the Bhagavatam begins where this book leaves off. This book ends with surrender to Krishna. Sarvadharma parityajya mamekam sharanamba. Sharanam means taking shelter, surrendering. And in Bhagavatam, it's understood, at the beginning, right into the second chapter, dharma projita kaita votra. If you're interested in hatha yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, Bhagavatam isn't for you. It's going to tell you all the reasons why you should give that up and just take bhakti.
Right.
You see? So Bhagavatam is much more elaborate, but the essence is the same, which is surrender to Krishna. But there's so much information about Krishna that can, make you worship and glorify and surrender and serve and love.
I have one more question then. Since
Okay.
you know about all these things, how many books are there to the Bhagavatam?
How many books?
How many books?
Well, we started out with, it doesn't make too much sense to ask about volumes because the volumes change. We had 30 volumes at one point, now we have 18, thicker ones obviously. The real question is how many verses there are. There are 18,000 verses, there are only 700 verses here, so you can see it's much larger. Yeah, no, 18, yeah, it's 18 volume set, but some of them like 1,000 pages long.
The Vedas are the ones that have like a million things in it, like 169, 170 volumes.
Yeah, well, yeah, the Vedas are much bigger, and vaster. The Mahabharata itself is, 100,000 verses compared to 18,000 for the Bhagavatam. So
What's the Mahabharata?
Mahabharata? Mahabharata is called an itihasa or a history. Is like this Bhagavad Gita, we're on a battlefield, right?
Right.
And a war is about to take place. So that Mahabharata contains the explanation of that war, the description of the war, who's fighting in it. And
the whole thing, the whole story's there.
The whole story is there.
Is that available to buy?
I can send it to you on your phone. So you
Really?
Can,
The whole Mahabharata?
Yeah.
Technology.
Mahabharata.
Holy crap.
Yeah, the Mahabharata we're not encouraged to read because a lot of stuff in there that is far afield. There's a lot of just Vedic stuff. So, but Bhagavad Gita we're very much encouraged to read. Time for Arti. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.